The alarm screamed through every corridor of Sanctuary Station. Red lights flashed in angry pulses as Daewon ran through the engineering deck, his tools still strapped to his belt. Behind him, the sound of metal tearing apart echoed like thunder. The station was dying, and he knew it. 3,000 people lived on Sanctuary Station. It orbited a small moon rich with minerals that humanity needed for their expanding colonies. Daewon had worked here for 2 years, maintaining the life support systems that kept everyone breathing. It was quiet work, boring even. Until today, the Rakthiri had come without warning. Daewon had heard stories about them. Everyone in human space had. They were a warrior race, tall and powerful, covered in striped fur like ancient earth tigers. They fought for territory, for resources, for glory. They took prisoners as trophies to prove their strength, and they never showed mercy. He reached the evacuation zone where civilians were crowding into escape pods. Women held crying children. Old men pushed forward with desperate strength. A security officer was trying to keep order, but panic made people forget kindness. Daewon, the officer Ji-won, grabbed his arm. "We need more time. The pods won't launch until the docking clamps release. I know. I can override it from here, but..." The wall exploded inward. Metal shrieked and bent as something massive punched through. Daewon hit the floor, ears ringing. Through the smoke and debris, he saw them. The Rakthiri warriors had breached the hull. They were even bigger than the story said. 7 feet tall, maybe more. Their bodies were covered in orange and black striped fur. They wore armor that looked ancient but strong, made from materials Daewon didn't recognize. Their faces were a mix of human and great cat, with golden eyes that glowed in the emergency lights. When they opened their mouths, he saw fangs meant for tearing flesh. The warriors moved through the crowd like a storm. They grabbed civilians with ease, throwing them aside or dragging them away. Ji-won fired his weapon at them, but the shots barely slowed them down. One warrior backhanded him across the room. Daewon's hand found the plasma cutter on his belt. It was just a tool for cutting metal, not a weapon. But it was all he had. A Rakthiri warrior reached for a woman holding her daughter. The little girl was screaming. Without thinking, Daewon activated the plasma cutter and rushed forward. The blue hot beam caught the warrior's arm. The alien roared in pain and rage, turning toward him. Daewon had made a terrible mistake. The warrior grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the floor. Daewon couldn't breathe. His vision started to darken. This was how he would die, he thought. Strangled on a station far from Earth, far from his family. "Stop." The voice was deep and female. The warrior holding Daewon froze. He was lowered back to the floor, but not released. A new Rakthiri stepped through the breach in the wall. She was clearly the leader. Her armor was more decorated than the others, with symbols Daewon didn't understand. Her fur was darker, almost red in the emergency lights. A long scar ran down her left arm. She moved with confidence, with power. She walked straight to Daewon and looked at him with those golden eyes. He tried to meet her gaze, tried not to show fear. His hand still held the plasma cutter, though it felt useless now. The leader spoke in her own language, harsh and growling. The warrior holding Daewon responded. She looked at the burn on the warrior's arm, then back at Daewon. Something changed in her expression. Was that respect? Amusement? She said something else, and the warrior released him. Daewon gasped for air, his throat burning. Before he could move, the leader grabbed his wrist. She was fast, impossibly fast. The plasma cutter fell from his hand. She examined him like someone might examine an interesting object at a market. Then she raised the plasma cutter and pressed the blade against her own shoulder. The smell of burning fur and flesh filled the air. She didn't flinch. Didn't make a sound. When she pulled the tool away, a fresh burn marked her shoulder, matching the one Daewon had given her warrior. She pointed at the mark, then at Daewon. She spoke in broken human standard, the common language of human space. "You mark me. I mark self. You mine now." "What?" Daewon's voice was rough from being choked. "War prize. You fight. You brave. You mine." She tapped her chest, then pointed at him again. "I am Vara. You belong Vara now." Around them, the other Rakthiri were gathering the surviving humans. They were separating them into groups. Some would be left behind. Others would be taken. Daewon realized with horror what was happening. They were choosing prisoners. "No," Daewon said. "You can't." Vara grabbed his face, not gently, forcing him to look at her. "You have courage. Stupid courage, but courage. I respect this. So you live. You come with Vara. Be grateful, human." My name is Day-Wan. She tilted her head, considering this. The Day-Wan. Strange name, but you are Day-Wan who marked Vara. This means something. You will see. Two warriors grabbed him by the arms. He tried to fight, but it was like fighting mountains. They dragged him toward the breach in the hull. Behind him, he could hear crying, pleading, the sounds of his world ending. Ji-Wan was being carried by another warrior, unconscious but alive. Other humans from the station were being gathered and taken. Day-Wan saw the woman with her daughter being pulled away. He saw engineers he worked with, traders he drank with, people he knew. All of them were prisoners now. They were taken to Rakthiri ships waiting outside the station. The ships were dark and angular, nothing like human vessels. They looked dangerous even while still. Day-Wan was thrown into a holding cell with 20 other humans. The door sealed shut with a hiss. Through a small window he could see Sanctuary Station. It was broken and burning, pieces of it drifting away into space. 2 years of his life had been spent there. Now it was just debris. A hand touched his shoulder. It was Ji-Wan, awake now with blood on his face. We're alive, he said quietly. Are we? Day-Wan asked. The ship began to move, carrying them away from everything they knew. Away from human space. Away from hope. Day-Wan pressed his hand against the cold wall of the cell and tried not to think about his sister Yun-Ha, who had been transferred to another station just a month ago. At least she was safe. At least she wouldn't become a prisoner like him. The ship jumped to faster-than-light travel and the stars turned into streaks of light. Day-Wan closed his eyes. He was Vera's war prize now. Whatever that meant, he would find out soon enough. But he made a promise to himself in that dark cell. He would survive this. He would find a way home. And he would never stop being human, no matter what they did to him. The journey to Rakthiri space had begun. Day-Wan woke to the sound of metal scraping against metal. His body ached from sleeping on the hard floor of the cell. Around him, other humans were stirring, all of them looking lost and afraid. The cell was barely large enough for all of them. It smelled like sweat and fear. Ji-Wan sat against the wall, his face swollen from the beating he took during the attack. He nodded at Day-Wan. You sleep at all? A little. It was a lie. Day-Wan had spent most of the night thinking about what would happen next. Nothing good, probably. The door suddenly opened. 2 Rakthiri warriors stood there, both wearing the same dark armor. One of them pointed at Day-Wan and barked something in their language. When Day-Wan didn't move fast enough, the warrior grabbed him and pulled him out of the cell. Wait, Ji-Wan stood up. Where are you taking him? The warrior ignored him. The door sealed shut, cutting off Ji-Wan's protests. Day-Wan was marched through the corridors of the ship. Everything was built for beings much larger than humans. The ceilings were high, the doors wide. The ship felt more like a fortress than a vessel. They stopped at a door marked with symbols that glowed faintly. One warrior pressed his hand against it and it slid open. They pushed Day-Wan inside, then left him alone. The room was large and clearly belonged to someone important. There were weapons mounted on the walls. Furs covered parts of the floor. A wide bed sat in the corner, more like a platform than anything human. And sitting in the center of the room, cleaning blood from her claws, was Vera. She looked up when he entered. Her golden eyes studied him for a long moment. Then she stood and walked toward him. Day-Wan forced himself not to step back. He wouldn't show fear. Not to her. Vera circled him slowly, like a predator examining prey. You are hurt, she said in her rough standard. I'm fine. She grabbed his arm before he could pull away. Her grip was iron. She pushed up his sleeve and revealed a dark bruise where one of her warriors had grabbed him during the attack. She made a sound in her throat, something between a growl and a hum. Sit, she commanded, pointing at a low bench. No. Vera's eyes narrowed. What? I'm not your pet. You can kill me if you want, but I won't sit when you tell me to sit. For a moment, Day-Wan thought he had made a fatal mistake. Vera's hand went to the blade at her hip. But then, surprisingly, she laughed. It was a harsh sound, but genuine. Stupid human. Brave but stupid. She grabbed him by the shoulders and forced him down onto the bench. I do not want pet. Pets are weak. You are war prize, different. She brought over a medical kit or what passed for one among her people. The supplies inside looked crude compared to human medicine. She began treating his bruise with some kind of salve that burned but then went numb. Why? Day-Wan asked. Why what? Why take me? Why keep me alive? Vara continued working on his arm. You fought. Small human with tool against Rakthiri warrior. Foolish, but you fought anyway. You marked me. She touched the burn on her shoulder. This means you have spirit. Rakthiri respects spirit, so I claim you. Claim me, Daewon repeated bitterly. Like property. Yes, you are mine now, my prize. This is honor among my people. It's slavery among mine. Vara finished with his arm and sat back. Your people are weak. Your station fell in less than 1 hour. Your weapons barely scratched our armor. Your warriors ran or died quickly. But you? She pointed at him. You stood and fought knowing you would lose. This is Rakthiri way. This is why you live. How generous, Daewon said sarcastically. Vara's hand shot out and grabbed his throat, not choking but holding. A warning. You will learn respect, Daewon. You belong to me, but I am not cruel master. You will be fed. You will be safe. Other prisoners not so lucky. You understand? He understood. He had no choice but to understand. She released him and stood. Come, you will meet others. Vara led him through the ship. As they walked, Rakthiri warriors stopped to stare at him. Some looked curious. Others looked hungry. One female warrior said something that made the others laugh. Vara snarled at them and they quieted immediately. Whatever she said, it made them back away. They reached another section of the ship. Through the windows, Daewon could see they were approaching a planet. It was red and orange, with massive clouds swirling across its surface. Cities glinted in the sunlight, but they looked nothing like human cities. These were fortresses, sprawling and ancient. Home, Vara said simply. Rock the Prime, heart of empire. Daewon's chest tightened. They were leaving human space behind entirely. Any hope of rescue faded with every passing moment. Vara brought him to what looked like a dining area. Several Rakthiri were eating, tearing into meat that still looked raw. At a table in the corner sat a group of humans. They wore simple clothes and kept their heads down. These were other prisoners. One of them looked up. An older man, thin and tired. Another one? Sit with them, Vara told Daewon. Eat, learn from them. She left him there. Daewon slowly approached the table. The humans made room for him. Someone pushed a plate of food toward him. It wasn't human food, but it was edible. Barely. I'm Hyun, the older man said. Been here 2 years. 2 years? Daewon felt sick. Welcome to your new life, Hyun said without emotion. It doesn't get better. You just get used to it. Another prisoner, a woman named Bora, touched his hand gently. Who claimed you? Vara. The prisoners exchanged looks. The commander, Hyun said. You're lucky. She's harsh but fair. Some of the others. He trailed off, shaking his head. There's no rescue coming, is there? Daewon asked. No, Hyun said. There's no rescue. Humanity is too far away. Too weak to fight the Rakthiri. We're here until we die or until they get bored of us. I don't accept that. You will, Hyun said tiredly. Everyone does eventually. Daewon looked at the humans around the table. They had given up. He could see it in their eyes, in the way they moved. They were alive, but only barely. Something inside them had died. He thought about Jiwon still in that cell. He thought about his sister Yunha, probably not knowing he was captured. He thought about his home on Earth, so far away it might as well be a dream. Vara returned sometime later. She grabbed his shoulder. Come, we land soon. You stay close to me. Others will try to challenge my claim. If they do, you do nothing. Understand? What happens if they challenge? I fight, I win. You stay mine. And if you lose? Vara's eyes flashed dangerously. I do not lose. The ship shuddered as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Through the windows, Daewon watched as they descended toward one of the fortress cities. It grew larger and larger until it filled his vision. Towers of dark stone reached toward the sky. Walls thick enough to park ships on surrounded everything. The ship landed in a massive bay. Vara gripped his arm and pulled him close. Listen carefully, human. You are war prize, but here some will see you as insult. Proof that I waste time on weak creature. You will be tested. So will I. Stay silent. Stay close. Let me handle all. The door opened and heat rushed in. The air smelled like metal and smoke. Vara stepped out and Daewon had no choice but to follow. Hundreds of Rakthiri filled the bay. They cheered when they saw the returning warriors. They roared and beat their chests. And when they saw the human prisoners being led off the ships, they laughed and jeered. Daewon walked through the crowd, his head high despite his fear. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing him break. Vara noticed this and made a sound of approval. They entered the fortress, leaving the noise behind. The hallways were cooler and darker. Vara led him deep into the structure, through corridors that twisted and turned. Finally, they reached her quarters. It was larger than the room on the ship, filled with weapons and trophies from battles. Vara pointed to a corner. "You sleep there. Do not touch my things. Do not try to escape. There is nowhere to go." She turned to leave, then paused. "You did well today, Daewon. You did not cry, did not beg. Maybe you survived this after all." Then she was gone, leaving him alone in a strange room on an alien world, farther from home than any human had ever been taken. Daewon sank to the floor in the corner she had indicated. He was Vera's property now. Her prize. Her possession, but he was still alive. And as long as he was alive, there was hope. Even if it was only a small flame in an ocean of darkness. The heat of Rakhtha Prime was unlike anything Daewon had experienced. Even inside the fortress, it pressed down on him like a weight. He had been here 3 weeks now, and he still wasn't used to it. Vera gave him tasks to keep him busy. Simple things at first. Organizing weapons. Cleaning armor. Work that kept his hands occupied and his mind from dwelling on his situation. She watched him often, though she pretended not to. He could feel her golden eyes on him as he worked. The fortress was enormous. Vara's family lived here, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. All warriors. All proud and fierce. They looked at Daewon with curiosity or disgust, but none challenged Vera's claim on him. Not yet. One morning, Vera woke him early. "Get up. Today you see the city." Daewon rubbed sleep from his eyes. "Why?" "Because I say so. Come." She led him through the fortress and out into the streets. The city stretched in every direction, built from red stone that matched the desert beyond the walls. Rakthiri moved through the streets with purpose. Markets sold weapons and armor. Training grounds echoed with the sounds of combat. Everything centered on war, on strength. As they walked, a smaller Rakthiri approached. She was younger than Vera, with brighter orange fur and eyes full of curiosity. She spoke rapidly in their language, and Vera responded with what sounded like annoyance. The younger Rakthiri turned to Daewon. "Hello," she said in surprisingly good standard. "I am Kira, Vara's sister." "Daewon," he replied, surprised. "Your standard is better than hers." Kira's ears perked up with pleasure. "I study your language. Your culture. It interests me." She walked alongside them, ignoring Vara's obvious irritation. "Is it true your people choose leaders without fighting?" "Sometimes," Daewon said carefully. "Fascinating. And you have no warrior class? Everyone is equal?" "That's the idea. Doesn't always work that way." Vara growled something at her sister. Kira responded with equal heat. They argued back and forth until Vara finally waved her hand dismissively. Kira grinned at Daewon. "She says I talk too much. She's probably right. But I will see you again, human. I have many questions." Kira bounded away into the crowd. Vara watched her go with a mixture of fondness and frustration. "My sister sees the world differently. She questions too much. Dangerous, but I cannot stop her." They continued through the city. Vara brought him to a massive arena at the city's center. Thousands of Rakthiri filled the seats, cheering and roaring. In the arena below, 2 warriors fought with blades and claws. It was brutal and bloody. "This is what we are," Vera said, gesturing to the fight. "Strength, combat, victory, the strong lead. The weak serve, simple, clear. And the weak just accept it?" Daewon asked. "They have no choice. This is natural order." Daewon watched as one fighter fell. The victor stood over him, blade raised. The crowd roared. But instead of killing, the victor offered his hand. The fallen warrior took it and was pulled to his feet. They embraced, and the crowd cheered even louder. "He showed honor in defeat," Vara explained. "He fought well. So he lives and serves the victor with pride. And if he hadn't fought well?" Vara didn't answer. She didn't need to. That evening, Vara's family held a feast to celebrate their victory at Sanctuary Station. The great hall filled with warriors, all drinking and eating and boasting about their conquests. Daewon was made to stand behind Vera's chair, a trophy to be displayed. The warriors talked about their human prisoners, comparing them like one might compare hunting dogs. Daewon kept his face neutral, his anger buried deep. He understood enough of their language now to catch bits of their conversation. It made him sick. A large male Rakthiri stood suddenly. He was bigger than most, scarred heavily from many battles. He pointed at Vara and spoke loudly. The hall quieted. Vara stood slowly. Daewon could feel tension radiating from her. She responded in a cold voice. The male warrior, Throk, spoke again, louder. Other warriors began murmuring. Kira appeared at Daewon's side, translating quietly. Throk challenges Vera's claim on you. He says you are too valuable a prize for a female warrior. He says she grows soft, keeping you alive when you should be worked to death like other prisoners. Daewon's fists clenched. What happens now? Vara must fight him. If she wins, her claim stands. If she loses... Kira didn't finish. Vera removed her outer armor, leaving only her arm guards and chest plate. Throk did the same. They circled each other in the center of the hall as other warriors pushed tables aside to make room. The fight began without ceremony. Throk lunged forward with his claws extended. Vara dodged and struck at his ribs. They moved with terrifying speed, trading blows that would kill a human instantly. Blood appeared on both of them, dark against their fur. Daewon watched helplessly. If Vera lost, he would belong to Throk, and Throk would not be kind. The fight raged for minutes that felt like hours. Both warriors were bleeding now, both showing signs of exhaustion. Throk was stronger, but Vara was faster. It seemed evenly matched. Then Daewon saw it. Throk's left hand moved to his belt. Hidden there was a small blade forbidden in honor combat. He was going to cheat. Without thinking, Daewon shouted in Rakthiri, using words he had learned. Blade, left hand! No honor! Every eye turned to him. Vara looked too, just as Throk pulled the hidden blade. She saw it, and her face twisted with rage. When Throk lunged with the illegal weapon, she was ready. She caught his arm, twisted, and broke it. Throk screamed. The hidden blade fell to the floor. Vara kicked it toward the watching warriors. They saw what Throk had tried to do. Dishonor. The worst crime in Rakthiri culture. Throk fell to his knees. His career finished. Vara stood over him, not finishing him, which was somehow worse. She spoke clearly, and though Daewon didn't understand every word, he understood enough. She was banishing him, casting him out from the warrior class. Guards dragged Throk away. The feast continued as if nothing had happened, though everyone now looked at Daewon differently. He had called out the dishonor. A prisoner had saved a warrior's life. Later, in her quarters, Vara cleaned her wounds in silence. Daewon sat in his corner, still shaking from the adrenaline. Why? Vara finally asked. Why what? Why warn me? If I lost, you might have gone free when Throk died in shame. Why help your captor? Daewon chose his words carefully. Because it wasn't a fair fight. Because honor matters even between enemies. My people believe this too. Vara turned to look at him, really look at him. You are a strange creature, Daewon. I take you as prize. I own you, yet you save me. I didn't save you, Daewon said. I just leveled the field. You won the fight yourself. Vara made that huffing sound that was her version of a laugh. She walked over and, to his surprise, sat down near him. Not threatening, just present. Tell me about Earth, she said. What? Your homeworld. Tell me about it, so Daewon told her. He described blue skies and green forests. He told her about oceans and mountains. He spoke of cities where millions lived in peace, where warriors were rare and scientists were valued. He described music and art and all the things his people created when they weren't fighting. Vara listened in silence. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. Sounds weak, she finally said, but there was no conviction in it. Sounds civilized, Daewon countered. Perhaps. Vara stood and walked to her weapons wall. She ran a hand over them, touching each one. I was born to war, Daewon. My mother was warrior. Her mother before her. We are taught from birth that strength is all that matters. That conquest is glory. Do you believe that? She didn't answer. Instead, she asked, You have family on Earth? A sister, Unha, she's younger than me. I raised her after our parents died. You protected her. I tried. This is honorable, Vara said. Protecting the weak. Rakthiri believe this too in our way. Then why attack Sanctuary Station? There were children there, families. Vara's shoulders tensed. It is what we do. What we have always done. That's not an answer. It is the only answer I have. She moved to her sleeping platform and lay down, clearly ending the conversation. But Daewon had seen something in her eyes. Doubt. Just a flicker, but it was there. He settled into his corner, pulling the thin blanket over himself. The fortress was quiet now, the feast over. Somewhere in this building, Jiwon and the other prisoners from his station were sleeping in cells. Somewhere in this empire, Hyun and countless others served as slaves to warrior masters. But something had changed today. Vara had looked at him differently after the fight. Not as property, not as a prize, as something else. Something neither of them had words for yet. Daewon closed his eyes and thought of his sister. He had promised himself he would survive. He had promised he would stay human. He was keeping those promises. But he was also starting to see that maybe, just maybe, the Rakthiri were not the simple monsters he had thought them to be. They were brutal and harsh, yes, but they understood honor. They valued courage. And Vera, for all her strength and fierceness, was beginning to see him as something more than a trophy. It wasn't much. It wasn't freedom. But it was something, and something was better than nothing. 2 months passed like water through fingers. Daewon learned the rhythms of the fortress, the patterns of Rakthiri life. He learned more of their language, enough to understand conversations he wasn't meant to hear. And slowly, carefully, his relationship with Vera changed. She no longer saw him as just a prize. He could tell by the small things. The way she asked his opinion on matters. The way she made sure he ate enough. The way she sometimes forgot to give him orders and simply talked to him instead. One morning, Vara woke him before dawn. "We hunt today." "Hunt? In the desert." "Rakthiri tradition. Come." She brought him to the fortress gates where a small group waited. Kira was there along with 2 other young warriors. They carried weapons but wore lighter armor than usual. The desert stretched before them, red and endless under the rising sun. "This is how we bond," Vara explained as they walked into the heat. "Warriors hunt together. Learn to trust. You will hunt with us, I'm not a warrior. Today you are." They walked for hours. The heat was crushing. Daewon's human body struggled with it, but he refused to complain. Kira walked beside him asking questions about Earth, about human technology, about everything. Her curiosity was endless. "Do humans really mate for life?" she asked. Daewon nearly tripped. "Some do. It's complicated. Rakthiri mate when we choose. Take many partners. But Vera has taken none." Kira glanced at her sister, who walked ahead. "She says she is too busy with war. But I think she is lonely." Before Daewon could respond, Vera raised her hand. Everyone stopped. In the distance, something moved. Large shapes in the shimmering heat. "Desert stalkers," one of the warriors whispered. 3 of them. Daewon squinted and saw them. Massive 6-legged creatures with armored hides and tails like whips. They looked like nightmares made flesh. "We take the largest one," Vera decided. "Kira, flank right. Mako, left. Daewon, stay with me." "I don't have a weapon," Daewon pointed out. Vera handed him a long knife. "Now you do. Stay behind me. If one gets close, aim for the eyes or throat. Nowhere else will work." They moved carefully, using the rocks and dunes for cover. The stalkers hadn't noticed them yet. They were feeding on something, tearing at a carcass with teeth like swords, Vera signaled. The hunters spread out, surrounding their target. Then she roared, a sound that echoed across the desert, and charged. The stalkers reacted instantly. The largest one turned toward Vera, its 6 legs carrying it with terrible speed. She met it head-on, her blade flashing. The other warriors engaged the remaining beasts. Daewon tried to stay out of the way, but combat is chaos. One of the smaller stalkers broke free from Mako and came straight at him. There was no time to think. Daewon dove aside, rolled, and came up with the knife ready. The stalker's tail whipped toward him. He barely avoided it, feeling the wind of its passing. The creature opened its mouth, revealing rows of teeth. Daewon saw his death approaching. Then he remembered something. He was an engineer. Engineers solve problems. The stalker lunged. Daewon didn't try to fight it head-on. Instead, he grabbed a handful of sand and threw it at the creature's eyes. It recoiled, momentarily blinded. Daewon ran forward, not away, sliding under its body. He drove the knife upward into the softer underside with all his strength. The stalker screamed. Black blood poured over Daewon. The creature collapsed, nearly crushing him. He rolled free just in time. Silence. The fight was over. All 3 stalkers lay dead. Vera stood over her kill, barely breathing hard. She looked at Daewon, covered in blood and sand, standing over his kill. Something changed in her expression. Respect. Real respect. "You did not run," she said. "Running doesn't work well in a desert." Kira laughed, a barking sound. "He has humor even in battle." "I like him, sister." They butchered the largest stalker, taking meat and the armored plates from its hide. As they worked, Vara stood close to Daewon. "You fought smart. Used your mind instead of strength. This is valuable. It's the human way," Daewon said. We can't overpower most things, so we outsmart them. Perhaps this is not weakness, Vara said quietly. Perhaps it is different kind of strength. That night they camped in the desert. The twin moons of Rakta Prime rose, casting strange shadows. They cooked the meat over a fire and ate under the stars. Stars that weren't Earth's stars. Constellations Day One didn't recognize. Kira sat beside him. You miss your home. It wasn't a question. Day One nodded. Every day. Tell me about your sister. Yunha? So he did. He told her about how he had raised Yunha after their parents died in a mining accident. How she was smart and brave and wanted to be a doctor. How she laughed at his terrible jokes. How much he missed her. When he finished, he found Vera listening too. She stared into the fire, her expression unreadable. Family is sacred to Rakthiri too, she finally said. We fight for clan, for blood, but also for empire, for glory. Sometimes I wonder. She trailed off. Wonder what? Daewon asked. If glory is worth the cost. The other warriors had fallen asleep. Only the three of them remained awake, sitting around the dying fire. Kira spoke carefully. There are others who think like you, sister. Others who question the endless war. Vara's head snapped up. Careful, Kira. I speak truth. There is a resistance. Not large, but growing. Warriors and non-warriors alike. They believe there must be another way. This is treason talk, Vera growled, but her heart wasn't in it. Is it treason to want our people to build instead of destroy? To create instead of conquer? Kira looked at Daewon. Humans build things. Amazing things. I have seen the records of what Sanctuary Station was. A place of trade and learning, not just war. A place we destroyed, Vara said bitterly. Yes, Kira agreed. And I am ashamed of it. Silence fell. The desert wind blew across them, carrying sand and secrets. Daewon saw something breaking inside Vara, some wall she had built to keep doubt away. It was crumbling. I was taught that other species are inferior, Vara said softly. That only Rakthiri deserve to rule. That conquest is our destiny. But you, Daewon, you are not inferior. You are brave. You are clever. You have honor. She looked at him. How can I believe what I was taught when you exist? Maybe what you were taught was wrong, Daewon said gently. If that is true, then what am I? What have I done? Vara's voice held pain. How many stations have I raided? How many prisoners have I taken? If I am wrong, then I am monster. Daewon wanted to comfort her but didn't know how. This fierce warrior who had taken him as a prize was showing him her broken pieces. He settled for honesty. You can't change the past, but you can change what you do next. They returned to the fortress the next day. News had spread about Daewon killing a desert stalker. Other warriors looked at him with surprise now, not just contempt. A human who could hunt. Who could fight. It changed something in how they saw him. Days turned to weeks. Vara became more distant, lost in thought. She trained harder than ever, as if trying to outrun her doubts. But Daewon noticed she stopped calling him her prize. She just used his name now. One evening, Vera took him to the top of the fortress walls. The city spread below them, lit by thousands of lights. Beyond it, the desert stretched to the horizon. I brought you here to tell you something, she said. There is to be an attack. On a human colony world called New Busan. In 2 months. I am ordered to lead one of the battalions. Daewon's blood went cold. New Busan? That's a major colony. Millions of people live there. I know. You can't, Daewon said desperately. Vara, please. There are families there, children, people like Yunha. I am soldier. I follow orders. You're more than that now. You know you are. Vera's hands gripped the wall so hard her claws scraped stone. What would you have me do, refuse? I would be executed for treason. My family would be shamed. Better than being a murderer. Vera spun on him, anger flashing. You think I want this? You think I do not see the faces of those I have killed in my dreams? But I am Rakthiri. War is what we are. It doesn't have to be. Yes, it does. Vara's voice broke. I cannot change an empire alone, Daewon. I am just one warrior. Then don't fight alone, Daewon said. Kira spoke of others who think like you. Find them. Work with them. That is treason. That's survival. For your people and mine. Vara turned away from him, staring out at the city. If I do this, if I betray my empire, there is no going back. I will be hunted, killed. My family will suffer. I know, Daewon said. It's not fair, but nothing about this is fair. They stood in silence as the sun set. painting the desert in shades of red and gold. Two people from different worlds standing at a crossroads neither had chosen. Finally, Vara spoke. I need time to think. To decide? We don't have much time. 2 months, you said. I know. She looked at him, her golden eyes full of conflict. You were supposed to be a prize, a trophy, something to prove my strength. Instead, you have become something else. Something I have no word for. Friend? Day One suggested. Vara considered this. Perhaps. Is that what humans call it? It's a start. She almost smiled. Almost. Then she left him there on the wall, alone with his thoughts and his fears. Below, the city lived and breathed, unaware that everything was about to change. 6 weeks had passed since Vara told him about New Busan. 6 weeks of watching her struggle with the weight of her choice. Day One could see it eating at her. She trained until exhaustion, trying to drive away the thoughts. But they always returned. Day One spent his time learning everything he could about the fortress, where the communication arrays were, how the security systems worked. If Vara wouldn't act, maybe he could. Maybe he could warn New Busan himself. One night, when everyone else slept, he made his move. He had watched the guards enough to know their patterns. He slipped through the corridors like a shadow, using the maintenance tunnels he had memorized. His engineering knowledge served him well. Every fortress had weaknesses, and he had found them. The communication center was guarded, but not heavily. Why would it be? No prisoner had ever made it this far. Daiwan waited until the guard passed on patrol, then slipped inside. The Rakthiri systems were different from human ones, but not so different that he couldn't figure them out. He had 6 minutes, maybe 7, before the guard returned. His hands moved quickly over the controls, trying to find the right frequency. Human emergency channels, anything. He found one. His heart raced as he began encoding a warning message. New Busan attack planned. 2 weeks, prepare. A hand grabbed his shoulder and spun him around. Vara's brother Gorak stood there with murder in his eyes. Traitor! Gorak snarled. He struck Day One across the face, sending him crashing into the console. You dare use our systems against us? More guards arrived. They grabbed Day One and dragged him toward the door. Gorak followed, speaking rapidly into his communicator. Within minutes, half the fortress seemed to know what had happened. They threw Day One into the great hall where Vara's family gathered. Word spread fast. A prisoner had tried to betray them. Warriors filled the room, all of them calling for his death. Vara entered last. She looked at Day One, bloodied and held between guards, and her face showed nothing. Gorak stepped forward. Your prize has committed treason, sister. He tried to warn the humans of our attack. By our law, he must be executed, and you, as his owner, must do it yourself or face exile. Vara walked slowly toward Day One. The hall fell silent. Every eye was on her. She stopped in front of him, so close he could see the conflict raging behind her eyes. Is this true? She asked quietly. Day One met her gaze. Yes, why? Because it's right. Because millions of innocent people will die if I don't try to stop it. I couldn't live with myself if I did nothing. Vara's hand went to the blade at her hip. The crowd leaned forward, anticipating blood. This was the moment. She would kill him, or she would be destroyed. There was no third option, except there was. No, Vara said. Gorak stepped forward. What? I said no. Vara turned to face her brother, her family, her entire world. I will not execute him. He did what any of us would do to protect our people. He showed courage, honor. These are things we claim to value, yet we punish him for having them. He is property, Gorak spat. Less than nothing. And you defend him? I do more than defend him, Vara said, her voice growing stronger. I stand with him. This attack on New Busan is wrong. We destroy for no reason other than we can. We take prisoners not because we need to, but because we want trophies. When did we become monsters who kill children for glory? The hall erupted. Half the warriors shouted in outrage. The other half looked uncertain, some even nodding. Gorak's face twisted with rage. You speak treason, sister. I speak truth. Before anyone could react, Kira stepped forward from the crowd. She is not alone. I too question our ways. Many of us do. Another warrior joined her. Then another. Not many, but enough. Enough to show that Vara's doubts were not unique. Enough to show that cracks existed in the Empire's foundation. Gorak drew his blade. Then you are all traitors. I will kill you myself, sister, and restore honor to our clan. The guards released Day-Wan and stepped back. This was a family matter now. Gorak advanced on Vera, who drew her own blade. But before they could clash, alarms screamed through the fortress. Everyone froze. That alarm meant only one thing. The fortress was under attack. A warrior burst into the hall. Enemy ships in orbit. They're human vessels. Impossible. Humans didn't have the strength to attack Rak the Prime. But as they rushed to the walls, Day-Wan saw it was true. 3 human warships hung in orbit, their weapons powered. It wasn't an invasion force. It was a rescue mission. Vera grabbed Day-Wan's arm. Did you do this? Did your message get through? I don't know. I didn't finish sending it. Doesn't matter now, Kira said, appearing beside them. The Empire will respond with overwhelming force. Those ships will be destroyed in minutes. Day-Wan's mind raced. If those ships were here, it meant someone had tracked him. Meant someone cared enough to try. But Kira was right. They would die unless... The orbital defense platforms, Day-Wan said. If we could disable them, the ships might have a chance to escape. Gorak had followed them. You would help humans destroy our defenses? Vara, see what your mercy has created? Vara ignored him. She was thinking, calculating. The main defense control is in the lower fortress. Heavily guarded. I know, Day-Wan said, but I also know how to override it. If we can get there. This is madness, Gorak said. I will not let you shame our family further. He lunged at Vera with his blade. She parried, but barely. Around them, the fortress descended into chaos. Warriors loyal to the old ways fought those who questioned. The careful order of Rakthiri society fractured in moments. Kira grabbed Day-Wan. Come, others, wait. Others who have been ready for this day. She led him through the fighting, down corridors filled with smoke and violence. They reached a lower level where a group of Rakthiri waited. But these were different. Some were warriors, yes, but others wore the simple clothes of servants, of merchants, of those who belonged to the lower castes. One of them stepped forward. An older Rakthiri with gray fur. I am Elder Tash. We have waited long for someone with the courage to challenge the warrior rule. We will help you. Why? Day-Wan asked. Because we are tired. Tired of war. Tired of serving those who value only strength. Your people may be weaker in body, but you build wonders. You create. We want to learn this. But first we must survive this night. They moved as a group toward the defense control center. Fights broke out along the way, but the rebels fought with desperate determination. They lost people. Day-Wan saw Rakthiri he had come to know fall and not rise. The cost of change was written in blood. Vera caught up with them, her armor dented and stained. Gorak follows with loyalists. We have minutes, maybe less. They reached the control center. Day-Wan's fingers flew over the console. It was more complex than the communication system, but the principles were the same. He found the defense grid and began shutting it down section by section. There, he said. The ships have a corridor to escape through. If they're smart, they'll take it now. In orbit, the human ships began moving. They fired covering shots and accelerated toward the gap in the defense grid. The Rakthiri fleet pursued, but too slowly. The human ships jumped to faster than light speed and were gone. The room shook as something exploded nearby. Gorak's voice echoed through the corridors. Nowhere to run, traitors! Vara pushed Day-Wan toward a side door. Go, Kira will take you. What about you? I will hold them. Give you time. No, Day-Wan said. We go together or not at all. Stubborn human, Vara said, but there was warmth in it. They ran together, all of them, through passages that led to the fortress's emergency hangars. Kira had planned this, Day-Wan realized. She had been preparing for rebellion for a long time. They reached the hangar where a single ship waited. Small, fast, built for speed, not war. The rebels piled into it, wounded helping wounded. Day-Wan found himself next to Hyun, the prisoner he had met months ago. The old man was bleeding but smiling. Told you there was no rescue, Hyun said. Didn't say anything about escaping, though. Vera took the pilot's seat. The ship lifted off just as Gorak and his warriors burst into the hangar. They fired. But the ship was already moving, already flying through the fortress's launch tunnel. They burst into the red sky of Rak the Prime, pursued by dozens of fighter craft. Vara pushed the ship to its limits, weaving through fire. The twin moons hung overhead like watching eyes. Where do we go? Kira asked. Anywhere but here, Vera said. They jumped to faster than light speed, leaving Rak the Prime behind. Leaving everything behind. Vara was an exile now, a traitor to her people. And Day-Wan was still a prisoner technically, though the chains felt different now. In the quiet of jump space, Vara finally spoke. I have given up everything. My rank, my family, my world. I do not know what comes next. Daewon sat beside her. Neither do I, but we'll figure it out. Together? She asked. Together, he confirmed. Behind them, the refugees from 2 species huddled in the small ship, bound together by nothing but the choice to believe in something better than endless war. It was a small rebellion, a tiny act of defiance against an empire vast and old. But every great change starts small, and sometimes all it takes is one person willing to say no more, or in this case, 2. The neutral station hung in the darkness between empires, a place where laws from neither side fully reached. It was here that refugees, smugglers, and those running from their past gathered. It was here that Vara's small ship limped into dock, damaged from the escape and nearly out of fuel. Daewon helped the wounded off the ship. There were 12 of them total, 5 humans including himself, Hyun, and 3 others freed in the chaos, 7 Rakthiri, including Vera, Kira, and Elder Tash. All of them were exhausted, injured, and hunted. The station master, a squat alien with too many eyes, looked them over with obvious displeasure. Refugees? I don't do charity. Vera stepped forward, still intimidating despite her wounds. We can pay. With what? The price on your heads? The station master had clearly recognized her. News traveled fast. The Rakthiri Empire wants you dead. So do half the species in this sector. You're bad for business, please, Kira said. We only need a few days to rest. To resupply. The station master was about to refuse when another voice cut in. I'll vouch for them. Everyone turned. A human woman in military uniform approached. She was perhaps 40 years old with sharp eyes and scars that spoke of combat experience. Her rank insignia marked her as a captain. Captain Sora, Daewon read from her uniform. That's right. She looked at the group, her gaze lingering on Vara. You're the ones who disabled the defense grid at Rock the Prime, saved those 3 ships. How do you know that? Vara asked suspiciously. Because I commanded one of them. We were trying to extract human prisoners based on intel we received. Didn't expect to succeed, honestly. But someone opened a door for us. Sora looked at Daewon. Was that you? We did it together. Daewon said. Sora studied them for a long moment. Come with me. We need to talk. She led them to a secure room in the station's commercial sector. Once inside, she activated a privacy field. The attack on New Busan is scheduled for 6 days from now. We received a partial transmission warning us, but it cut off. We've been preparing defenses, but we're outnumbered 3 to 1. How did you find us? Vara asked. We didn't. We were tracking Rakthiri fleet movements and saw your ship flee. Took a chance. Sora turned to Vara. You're Commander Vara. Your battle record is extensive. You've led successful raids against 7 human colonies. You've taken hundreds of prisoners. And now you're here, apparently on our side. Why? Because it is wrong, Vara said simply. I have done terrible things. I cannot undo them. But I can stop doing them. Sora didn't look convinced. Words are easy, especially when your empire wants you dead anyway. She's telling the truth, Daewon said. She gave up everything to stop the New Busan attack. Did she? Or did she just make a tactical choice when her position became untenable? Sora crossed her arms. I'm not saying you're lying, Daewon, but I've seen too many tricks in this war to trust easily. Vara's hand moved toward her blade. Kira grabbed her arm, stopping her. Violence proves nothing here, sister. What would prove it to you? Elder Tash asked Sora. What would show our sincerity? Information, Sora said. Detailed tactical information about the New Busan attack. Fleet positions, attack vectors, timing, everything. Vara hesitated. Giving that information would mean betraying warriors she had served with for years. It would mean causing Rakthiri deaths, but it would also save human lives. I will give you what you need, Vara said quietly. They spent hours going over battle plans. Vara knew them intimately. She had been part of the planning. She drew out fleet formations, identified weak points, explained Rakthiri tactics. Sora recorded everything, asking sharp questions. When they finished, Sora sat back. This is good, very good. With this, we might actually hold them off. Might? Daewon asked. Even with warning, they outnumber us. It will be close. Sora looked at Vera. You could shift the balance. How? Fight with us. Not alone, but with others. There are Rakthiri who have defected before. Not many, but some. If we could organize them, create a strike force that hits the invasion fleet from behind while we defend from the front. A two-front battle, Kira said. It could work, but we would need more than 7 Rakthiri. I can get more, Elder Tosh said. The resistance has members throughout the Empire. Many would come if they knew there was real chance for change. Sora pulled up a star map. The staging area for the invasion is here. If you could hit it while they're preparing to launch, sabotage their main ships, it would give us the advantage we need. That is suicide mission, Vara said. Yes, Sora agreed. Probably, but it might save millions of lives, including humans you've never met and Rakthiri who still believe in the Empire. This war has cost both our species too much. Daewon looked at the map. The staging area was deep in Rakthiri space. They would have to travel through hostile territory, gather forces, and strike at the heart of military operations. The chances of survival were minimal. He thought of his sister, Yunha. She was on New Busan. He had confirmed it through Sora's records. If the attack succeeded, she would likely die. I'll go, he said. You're not a soldier, Sora pointed out. No, but I'm an engineer, and I know Rakthiri systems now. If we're going to sabotage their fleet, you'll need someone who can do it. Farah looked at him. You do not have to do this. You could stay here. Be safe. My sister is on New Busan. Safe is not an option for me. Then I go too, Vara said. This is my fault, my people. My responsibility to stop it, Kira nodded. And I go where my sister goes. One by one, the others volunteered. Hyun, despite his age and injuries. 2 other humans, both former soldiers who had been prisoners. The Rakthiri rebels, all of them choosing to risk everything for a chance at something better. Sora watched this with an expression that might have been respect. I'll assign a few of my people to help. We leave in 12 hours. That gives you time to rest and prepare. We'll take a fast ship, something that can slip through Rakthiri patrols. As the group dispersed to rest, Daewon found himself standing on the station's observation deck. Through the window, stars stretched in every direction. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere was New Busan. Somewhere was the future, unknown and terrifying. Vera joined him. They stood in silence for a while. I never thought I would be here, Vera finally said, fighting against my own people. Hunted by those I once led. Do you regret it? No, she turned to look at him. But I fear it. I fear failing. I fear that my past cannot be forgiven. I fear that I am still the monster who destroyed your station. You're not, Daewon said. Monsters don't change. You did, and because of you. No, because you chose to. I just asked the questions you were already thinking. Vera's hand found his hesitantly. Her clawed fingers were careful not to hurt his softer human skin. It was such a small gesture, but it carried enormous weight. A Rakthiri warrior holding hands with a human. Her prisoner. Her prize, her what? If we survive this, Vara said softly, what happens to us? I don't know, Daewon admitted. We'll be wanted by your empire. Probably not trusted by mine. We'll be caught between 2 worlds. Sounds difficult. Probably will be. But we do it together. Daewon squeezed her hand gently. Together. They stood there as the station rotated, stars wheeling past the window. Tomorrow they would leave for almost certain death. Tomorrow they would strike against impossible odds. Tomorrow they would try to stop a war that had raged for generations. But tonight, for just a moment, they had peace. 2 people from different species who had found something in each other that neither had words for. Not quite friendship. Not quite love. Something in between, something new. Something that might be the beginning of understanding between their peoples. If they lived long enough to see it grow. 12 hours later, they boarded a sleek human ship called the Dancing Blade. It was built for speed and stealth, perfect for the mission ahead. Sora had assigned 3 of her people to help. Jiwon, who had recovered from his injuries and refused to be left behind. A pilot named Minsu, and a weapons specialist called Da-Yun. Elder Tosh had used the time to contact the resistance. 20 more Rakthiri would meet them at the rendezvous point, rebels who had been waiting for this moment. As the Dancing Blade slipped away from the neutral station, Daewon looked at the faces around him. Humans and Rakthiri sitting side by side, former enemies, current allies, maybe someday friends. Farah sat in the command chair studying the route to the staging area. She looked up and caught his eye. No words were needed. They both knew what they faced. Set course, Vara ordered Minsu. Maximum stealth. If we're going to do this, we do it right. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, carrying them toward war, toward hope, toward a future that would be written in the next few days. Behind them, the neutral station grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among millions. Ahead lay darkness, danger, and the slim chance of redemption. But they flew toward it anyway, because some things are worth dying for, and the hope of peace between two species at war was one of them. The dancing blade emerged from jump space at the edge of the Rack Theory staging system. Through the viewport, Daewon could see the invasion fleet assembling. Hundreds of warships, maybe thousands, all preparing to descend on New Busan like a storm. That is a lot of ships, Ji-won said quietly. Too many, Vara agreed. Even with our information, this will be difficult. They had rendezvoused with the Resistance Rack Theory 2 days ago. 20 warriors who had grown tired of endless conquest, along with 30 members of the lower castes. All of them were in aging ships, barely armed, facing an empire. But they had something the empire didn't. They had hope. The plan was simple in concept, terrifying in execution. While the human fleet defended New Busan, their small force would strike the staging area. Daewon would disable the main capital ships with computer attacks while the fighters kept the defenses busy. If they could cripple enough of the fleet before it launched, New Busan might survive. If was doing a lot of work in that sentence. We are receiving transmission, Min-soo said. It's Captain Sora. The battle at New Busan has begun. On the screen, Sora appeared. Behind her, alarms flashed. The Rack Theory fleet has arrived early. We're engaging now. Whatever you're going to do it fast. We can't hold them long. The transmission cut out. There was no more time to prepare, no more time to plan. It was now or never. Vera stood from the command chair. Everyone to your positions. We strike in 5 minutes. Remember, we fight not for glory, not for conquest, but for the chance of peace. Fight well. The small fleet moved toward the staging area. Rack Theory patrol ships spotted them immediately. The fighting began. Their ships were outmatched, but the pilots were skilled and desperate. They wove between the larger vessels, targeting weapons and engines. Daeun's marksmanship was extraordinary, disabling 2 patrol ships in the first minute. But for every ship they disabled, 2 more appeared. They were being overwhelmed. Daewon, we need those capital ships down now, Vara shouted over the chaos. Working on it. Daewon's fingers flew over the controls. He was linked into the Rack Theory network, using access codes Vara had provided. The security was formidable, but he had learned their systems well during his captivity. He found the flagship, the pride of conquest, and wormed his way into its systems. The code was elegant and brutal, like the Rack Theory themselves. He began introducing faults, overloading power systems, disabling safety protocols. An explosion rocked the dancing blade. Shields at 40%, Min-soo called out. Keep us steady, Vara ordered. Daewon needs more time. They were buying him seconds with their lives. Daewon forced himself to focus, to block out the sounds of battle. He pushed deeper into the network, spreading his viral code to other ships. 1 capital ship went dark. Then another, but it wasn't enough. There were too many ships. Even with several disabled, the invasion fleet could still overwhelm New Busan. Daewon, enemy fighters on our tail, Ji-won warned. The ship shuddered from impacts. Daewon kept working. He had one more trick to try. If he could reach the command ship's main reactor, if he could create a cascade failure. Incoming transmission, Min-soo said. It's from the surface base. On screen, a Rack Theory admiral appeared. But behind him, Daewon saw someone else. Gorak. Vara's brother had survived and was leading the defense of the staging area. Traitor sister, Gorak's voice came through. You think you can stop the Empire with a handful of rebels? You are nothing. You will die here and your human pet with you. Perhaps, Vara said calmly. But we will die with honor. Can you say the same, brother? You who follow orders blindly while our people become monsters? Gorak's face twisted with rage. You speak of honor? You betray your blood. I honor my blood by saving it from itself, Vara replied. Something in Daewon's code broke through. The flagship's reactor began overloading. He had seconds to complete the sequence or it would stabilize. Vara, I can blow the flagship, but I need to be closer. Much closer, she understood immediately. Min-soo, direct course to the pride of conquest. Full speed. That's suicide, the pilot said. Do it, Vara commanded. The dancing blade accelerated, dodging fire, taking hits, shields failing. Other rebel ships moved to cover them, sacrificing themselves to buy time. Daewon watched through the viewport as ships exploded, both Rakthiri rebels and the few humans who had joined them. Each death weighed on him. Almost there, he said, his voice tight. The code was ready. The reactor was critical. He just needed a few more seconds. Enemy fire hammered the dancing blade. The lights flickered. Alarm screamed. Now Daewon, Vara shouted. He executed the final command. The Pride of Conquest reactor went into full meltdown. Get us out, Vara ordered. Minsu spun the ship around and hit maximum thrust. Behind them, the flagship exploded, a miniature sun blooming in space. The shockwave hit them, tossing the dancing blade like a toy. Systems failed across the board, but the explosion was spreading. The viral code had linked several ships' reactors. They began exploding in sequence, a chain reaction tearing through the heart of the invasion fleet. On the communications channel, chaos erupted. Orders and counter-orders, ships breaking formation, the carefully planned invasion falling apart. It worked, Kira said in disbelief. It actually worked, but the dancing blade was crippled. Life support failing, hull breached in multiple places. They were dead in space, surrounded by enemy ships that were now very, very angry. This is it, Jiwon said. We did what we came to do, at least. Gorak's face appeared on screen again. His command center was damaged, but he was alive. You have destroyed the fleet, sister. Thousands of warriors are dead, but you will not escape. I will kill you myself. His ship, a heavy cruiser, moved toward them. The dancing blade had no weapons, no shields, no ability to run. Vara stood straight. Then come, brother. Let us end this. Daewon moved to stand beside her. If this was the end, they would face it together. But before Gorak's ship could fire, something remarkable happened. 5 Rakthiri ships broke formation and moved between them and Gorak. Then 10 more. Then 20. What is this? Gorak demanded. One of the ship captains, a female warrior named Shar, spoke. This is the end of blind obedience, Gorak. Commander Vara has shown us another way. She gave up everything for what is right. How can we do less? Traitors, all of you! Gorak screamed. No, Shar said. We are Rakthiri who remember what honor means. More ships joined them. Not all, not even most, but enough. Enough to show that Vara's rebellion had sparked something that could not be easily extinguished. From New Busan, Sora's voice came through the damaged communications. The invasion fleet is breaking up. They're retreating? What did you do? Change the game? Vara said tiredly. We're sending rescue ships. Hold on. The battle ended not with a grand finale, but with exhaustion. Both sides pulled back, too damaged and too shocked to continue. The dancing blade was retrieved by a human rescue vessel. Daewon and the others were evacuated, treated for injuries, and brought to New Busan. The planet was scarred from the battle, but standing. Millions had survived who would have died. It wasn't a total victory, but it was enough. In the hospital, Daewon woke to find someone holding his hand. Vara sat beside his bed, herself bandaged and healing. Her golden eyes were soft. You survived? She said. So did you. Against odds, yes. The door opened. A young woman rushed in, tears streaming down her face. Daewon. Unha, he breathed. His sister threw herself at him, hugging him carefully to avoid his injuries. They said you were dead. They said the station was destroyed and everyone was taken. But you're here. You're alive. I'm alive, he confirmed, holding her tight. Yunha pulled back and noticed Vara. Her eyes widened at the sight of a Rakthiri, but she didn't run. This is Vara, Daewon said. She saved my life. Multiple times. Yunha looked at Vara with the fearless curiosity of the young. Thank you. For protecting my brother. Vara seemed unsure how to respond. Finally, she said, he protected me as well. Your brother is brave. I know, Yunha said, smiling through tears. Over the next weeks, the galaxy changed. The Rakthiri Empire didn't fall, but it fractured. Dozens of ships defected, inspired by Vara's example. A civil war began, with those who questioned the old ways fighting against those who clung to tradition. It was messy and painful, and far from over. But it was change. Humanity and the Rakthiri resistance began cautious negotiations. Captain Sora became one of the human ambassadors. Elder Tash represented the resistance. And Vara, despite being wanted by her own empire, became a symbol of the possibility of peace. Daewon and Vara testified before both human and Rakthiri councils. Many on both sides still hated them, called them traitors and collaborators. But others, especially the young, saw them differently. They saw hope. A year later, Daewon stood in a newly established neutral zone between human and Rakthiri space. The facility was small but growing. Here, members of both species worked together on trade, on research, on building rather than destroying. Vera stood beside him, looking out at the stars. She was different now. Still strong, still fierce, but gentler, more at peace. Do you ever regret it? Daewon asked. Everything you gave up? Every day, Vara admitted. I miss my home, my family. The certainty of the old ways, but she looked at him. I have found something more valuable, purpose.